A recent study by the University of Surrey and the University of Oxford may explain why it can be difficult to treat tuberculosis, even with antibiotics. Researchers found that the bacteria that causes TB may have an on and off switch that allows it to pause and restart growth. The hope, though, is that this new research will lead to better drugs. Tuberculosis is the most deadly infectious disease in the world. Recently, I talked to John Green about his new book, Everything Is Tuberculosis. You may know him from his YouTube or best-selling novels like The Fault in Our Stars. Green explained to me why he turned his skills to this topic. You start the book, as I did a little bit, which is people think, well, this is tuberculosis, that's something out there. That's part of the story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge part of the reason why tuberculosis is still thriving, is because we think of it as a disease of the past, not a disease that's still infecting people every day. But in fact, over 10 million people will get sick with TB this year.
You said the proximate cause is not M. tuberculosis, but Homo sapiens.
Yeah, I think ultimately the cause of tuberculosis in the 21st century is us, because we know how to treat and cure this disease. So you can't really say it's caused by a bacteria anymore. It's a bacteria we know how to kill. It's a bacteria we know how to deal with. The real cause of tuberculosis in the 21st century is humans, human choice, human-built systems, systems that leave some people out and include others.
The story of TB in its contemporary form, and of course, because you're a historian in its history, you tell also through the story of Henry. Who is Henry, and why were you going to Sierra Leone in the first place?
So I was in Sierra Leone with my wife to learn about the maternal health care system there, because my wife and I support a maternal hospital in Sierra Leone. But when we were there, we were asked to visit the tuberculosis hospital. And I was like, there's a tuberculosis hospital? And when we visited the TB hospital, LaCa, I met this boy named Henry, which is also my son's name. And he looked to be about the same age as my son, about 9 years old at the time. And Henry walked me all around the hospital and showed me the wards and showed me the laboratory. And eventually we ended up back with the doctors, and they sort of shooed him away. And I said, that's the sweetest little kid. And they said, he's not a little kid, he's 17. He just looked much younger because he was so emaciated, first by malnutrition and then by TB. In
your last book of essays, you had a sentence that stuck with me when you're talking about humanity's temporal range. And you wrote, such despair only worsens our already slim chance at long-term survival. Do you still apply that sentence to your worldview about the story of tuberculosis as you see it now? Do you see it as one where improvements can be made? Do you make grand claims about it relative to your overall worldview about how intractable problems like this can be addressed?
I know intractable problems can be addressed. The year I graduated from high school, 12 million children died under the age of 5, and last year fewer than 5 million did. That's one of the greatest accomplishments in human history, and it wasn't natural, it wasn't inevitable. It happened as a result of millions, or billions if you count taxpayers, of human beings coming together and working to make the world safer for children. We can do that with tuberculosis. We can do that with other diseases of injustice like malaria and HIV as well.
As a novelist, this is a nonfiction, but it's narrative nonfiction.
Yeah.
How was that experience different? Did you feel like Henry was in the, in the sidecar next to you as you were writing? Did you feel a greater burden because in part you've got another real human's life that you're telling stories about? How was the act of writing different?
Well, it is inconvenient not to be able to make things up, for sure. I sometimes wish I could, but in another way, it's very fulfilling. I mean, the truth is Henry's story and the story of his mother and the other stories I tell in the book are so astonishing that you couldn't make them up. To me, the nonfiction version of the story is as astonishing as anything that I could have ever invented, and so I didn't feel the need to write fiction.